It's a hot Friday, July 10th, 2026. The heat wave. This is the heat wave community beacon coming to you on this Good Friday. Of course, it's Palm Beach Michael Seville, your real estate guy here in northern Palm Beach County. And we got my brother with his mother on the road.
Hey, hi, Mom. I'm feeling good, brother. Feeling good. I got the blessing of being able to ride to Tampa with my mother. She had something she needed to take care of, and this is a long trip. It's a long day trip, so I cleared out the majority of my schedule. I didn't want to miss this call. Didn't want to miss this opportunity to be here with you, and so this is super important to me. So I'm here. I'm still on the road a little bit, but we're pulling up to a fueling station and I'm just enjoying this. I'm enjoying this, man. Like I said last week, this time right here is priceless. And there was one point in time when I wanted this to be and to feel, like we were delivering information at this high level. And I don't think that there's any difference in what we're able to deliver at all. I really don't. I do, however, feel like I'm not concerned with being some type of guru. You know how I feel about that. So I just want to be here with you and we deliver what we deliver and the people can take from it what they will. I love hearing different people talk about that. Some people have said it man, just sounds like two guys talking. Um, you know, People have said that they really got something out of what we were talking about. So it's been amazing. Been absolutely amazing.
I'm appreciative of a lot of what you said, that you do take the time out, that we have this hour for us to engage in conversation about whatever, because we definitely haven't planned one in a long time. And so the ability for us to engage in this conversation and for you to take it that seriously, that even on the road with your mother, which I think is super important. People, if your mother is around, spend time with her. Some of you, she may frustrate you. Because I know there were times when my mother frustrated me. There's times when, because your mother tends to see you as a lot younger and probably maybe doesn't even understand the growth, or maybe she does, or whatever space you are with them, if you learn to accept them for who they are, it becomes such a fruitful relationship, just learning from the one that carried you in their womb with all of their faults. And if you can get to the point when you can have a genuine and honest conversation with your mother, which I had several times, my life was filled with that. It's super important to have them while they're here, because when they're gone, you do still get to have them. You get to love them in another way, but when you have them physically, it's definitely important. So that's just a little gem for those of us who may say, "Man, I don't know if I want to see my mother." Yeah, just go on and see it, brother, sister. On and check out your moms, man. Mothers are super important, just like your father too. So I'm not gonna get too deep into that. I know the culture, but have some time with them. My father's here; he's been here for about a month and a half, and we just had a conversation where we didn't necessarily align and or agree, but we find a way to move past it. So yeah, man, brother, for you to take the time out when you're with your mother on that trip, I definitely appreciate it. I feel like I'm seen. I feel like I'm seen. I have some awesome friends as well. I was on the phone earlier with Beethoven for like 2 hours, and we had that conversation, and I felt seen too. And even at the end of that conversation, I'm gonna tell you what's so cool about where I'm at with my friends, right? Especially you all get to witness this with Joe, is that we get to tell each other that we feel seen, we feel understood, and we feel loved, and we feel, heard. All the things that I don't think a lot of people get the chance to do, or get that chance to experience it, or at least are aware of that experience. I certainly get. So for that, I am super grateful. I'm great.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm grateful for that. I resonate with that really well. You're definitely seen with me. I feel seen with you as well. I can appreciate every time that we've had these any conversation. We've met each other on the go, and you stop, take the time to really consider whatever it is that I'm talking about. And that's good. I love that. I love that. Non judgmental. And I trust you. I trust you. And so one of the other things I like about you and I like about you and love about you is you give me words. And those words, they never feel like judgment. And I, I'm not really, judgment doesn't bother me, right? Judgment doesn't bother me, doesn't at all. I mean, critique and all that stuff, I'm all right with it. I feel like as people, we probably do a whole lot more judging than what we inclined to say, and we attempt to disguise it many times using words like "I'm just saying" things like that. And really, it is a judgment. I think that the judgment happens, on the inside, and we are so ashamed of saying it. And so I'm not ashamed of it. I don't think there's anything wrong with judgment. I think that we need to teach our children how to be better judges in the first place. I think if we were to do that, instill inside of them better judgment, then they could actually judge situations and judge relationships and decide whether or not they should actually be inside of those relationships, and maybe they would have better lifestyles. So let me just put it like this. I have judged my friend Mike that he is a friend and that he is a brother. Now, how you like that, world? I just want to show you all that there's a place for judgment and that we should be using it more frequently than not. But nonetheless, I've always felt like no matter what you said has always been beneficial to me. It's always been beneficial. And whether we've had some tough conversations or some lighter conversations, they've always been beneficial. I've always had opportunity to learn something, and that's a benefit. That's a benefit. Hinging back onto the pre-conversation where you stated that this was a good conversation before we got on, I went through a period of time in my life where I'd raised to this certain level through my studies and through my prayers and through my lifestyle. And I was just moving in such a direction where I felt like I started to understand people at a really, really high level. And I could almost predict what the result. So the words that I was given was just about this level that I had managed to reach a few years back. And when I got to this particular level, I felt like I understood what was going to happen, the results of a conversation. And I started to stray away from it. I started to stray away from conversations. I didn't want to communicate with people. I had lots of prayers. I was talking with God so frequently because I felt like, what is the use of communicating if I know what the results of the communication would be? And I did some tests, some experiments. I ended up speaking with people, and I felt like I knew what was going to happen. If I said such and such, they would say such and such, and this would be the results. And I had enough experiences of it being exactly like I said it would be that I kind of shut it down. Just stopped talking with people a whole lot. And became like one of those types of men that didn't say much at all, just was there present and would do whatever I needed to do and just kind of move on. Didn't talk with people. And it became a lifestyle that felt like it was alone. So having the ability to have these types of conversations with you and talk with my mother and talk with a few other select individuals and to be able to express myself, man, it feels so good. It feels good. It feels good because it became a very alone style of pathway of life.
Yeah. First off, I appreciate you saying as eloquent as you are and the way that you communicate on such a high level, for you to say that I give you any words, in my humble opinion, I'm gonna definitely take that, and then I appreciate you informing me of that. We were having this conversation, like, prior to you getting on, and I just wanna get a little bit deeper into that thought because as I was having a conversation with Beethoven today, one of the things that came up was about separation. I often use our A framework quite often. I think people just cycle through it, right? I know I do, especially when it comes to growth, because I become aware of so many things just by having different conversations. And I also resonate with the time when it kinda you kinda know what someone is gonna say or how this conversation could end, and I would even look at myself to say, "Well, am I" well, I'm not look at myself. I certainly believe that I'm the, curator in that. Like, I'm not like a N what the kids call a NPC. I'm an active player in the game. So when I find that this thing is happening over and over again, I really have to look at myself as being the common denominator. But I had that time and I also had the separation piece where I was just like, I don't want to have these conversations anymore. I almost felt better at being one with myself and really getting, going in doing some introspection and seeing where that comes from at that point. And I even wrote on Facebook one time, I wrote separation, like you need separation. And at one point in time for me, I don't know how this thought came. I know I probably was reading, I know I was reading like the Bible. So it was like Genesis. And I'm just like, I started to experience separation as a sin because here I am being put on, God's green earth and I'm not interacting. So how do I make these interactions in my mind fruitful with whoever I am? And even when you mentioned like the judgment thing, I'm like, okay, we do have judgment. But then I started to, me and my words, I started to distinguish the judgment. I said, well, some of this stuff is discernment versus judgment. Like if I say something about like if there's a high level of discernment in it as well. Not to say that I don't judge. I was right before we got on the phone, someone posted, I asked a question in a group and someone posted something where you actually say something to somebody prior, especially when it if it feels like judgment. And I don't think like you mentioned, like how you turn judgment around, I don't think it's a judgment is a negative thing. Right. We're taught to come up with these we're taught a certain kind of way. And if something comes that is not necessarily aligned with the culture of what we experience and how we experienced it to be, then we may judge a thing. Right. I think I told somebody once there there's really there's really no scientific evidence to take a shower every day. They looked at me crazy. I didn't say I don't take a shower every day. I'm just telling you that there's no scientific
Mhm.
evidence for you to take it every day. And it actually goes against, especially if you're using all these different soaps or whatever, the type of soap you're using or whatever, it actually affects you in a negative way. There's science and research that backs that up. Now, is that going to stop me from when I heard that, when someone told me that, my face was like, I immediately went into a judge a certain kind of way. But the view process teaches us that, vulnerability, impartiality, empathy, and wonder, that part impartial is actually to own the things that you're partial to. That's the only way that you can end up becoming any kind of way of impartial to it. So whether you call it judging, whatever you call it, if you own it, it definitely supports to have a more open conversation as far as the judging goes. But I still wanted to ask you the question about what you did when you separated because I don't. And how has it changed when you came back from it? Like, what made you change after the separation and going deep to come back to some of these conversations that I imagine you probably still know the answer to for a majority of them? Yeah, a lot. Definitely louder for sure. Mm. Wow. And I've never heard you explain it like that before either. So I'm thankful that I get to witness you come to that thought process and be able to piece some things together. You mentioned quite a bit of things. One thing that came to mind was a lot of the studying and the introspection with the separation. And I'm telling you how interesting this is that, and not so. Sometimes it is. I like to think so, anyways. One thing that came to mind because I was talking to Beethoven about it earlier, and I was saying I was thinking about Solomon Ecclesiastes, where he said, "For much wisdom is much grief, and he that increaseth knowledge increaseth sorrow." Right. So, as I had similar things that resonated with what you mentioned, I remember that coming to like, man, what even points where you're just like, this information is food, or this studying, or this being in this place is food, like that. But it would be so much more enjoyable, or in my mind at the time, anyways, if I had more people to share it with. So I don't know if a lot of you all knew me in the past couple of years, but if you and I got into a conversation, I kind of would just like throw up all the information. If I met somebody who kind of even got to a point, I just be like, and this and this and this, and you can do this and this, I have all this information and these and super deep thoughts. Heck, you could see it in some of these of videos to the point where I'm like, I think I'm just I'm just going on a little bit about too much things because I'm excited. I'm excited when you get around people who can even understand at that level. That's what we before we got on this thing, we were talking about the different levels of communication. Conversation that I had with my father, and then Joel, we kind of started going off from there. But there's like different levels of communication. And when you can meet someone on a certain level of it, it's like exciting, especially if you don't get to have those conversations more so than the regular old, this and that and the third. Something that you mentioned, and I heard Gary Vee say it. I don't think this is his exact definition of it, but I like his phrasing. He talks about the sky and the dirt. He's like, people live in the sky and the dirt. The sky is something that you're probably very passionate about, something that you understand and that you have joy when you talk about it. But you can become a super expert in it, and there's not that many people who have that same passion for what you talk about or what it is that you do. Or it could be a feeling that you have. There's some people who just kind of live in the sky, like it's a lot of you can be super spiritual, you can have a certain understanding, and you kind of live up here, and then the dirt is almost like the grind. It's the day after day, the doing of a thing, the interacting with people, which is all these things can bring you joy if you actually put it together. But it's a different feeling of being in the sky. So just like the regular day to day things, having a pizza, playing basketball, going to the gym, what like all these things can happen. But when you get to that point of where you're in the sky, like when you have that and you're saying it's almost it feels like a separation. And then there's like the healthy, for me, it's like the healthy balance of the thing. Like, how can I experience this here and I can experience it here and I do it all at the same time? Because you can have it all. You can experience it all. It does. You said you don't want to describe it as humility. I think I personally would for myself describe it as being humble. There's a lot of acceptance, and then this goes back to the A frame to me, anyways. Like it's this awareness of a thing. Like, oh, whoa, like there's more to life than all of these things that we're talking about or what I've been taught, and I get to experience this life, and I'm experiencing it, and it's not necessarily matching up to what I was told, right? I get to experience, or rather, I get to experience it for myself, and then you get a chance to acknowledge that this is actually happening. Like this is, the brother brought up acknowledgement, like this is it, like this is I'm experiencing it. Is this I don't know sometimes I don't even know what's right or wrong. Like, is this in the right, or rather, I'm used to what I'm comfortable with. And then there's that part of the accepting of the thing, right? And I think for me, when I get to that acceptance part, sometimes in order for me to get to acceptance, I kind of need the separation. I kind of not I kind of need to go do some introspection and get with myself and do some meditation and do some thinking and have a certain type of conversation. So I at that point I may start seeking out people, right? Like you said, sometimes you go months without having a conversation about this thing, like, I get it. I go immediately into seeking it. If I gotta pay for it, if I gotta figure out who I need to talk to, how I need to talk to, anything, I'm open to receiving and understanding this thing. And sometimes for me, that takes it used to more so than now, it was separation from a certain thought process. Because if I stayed in this acknowledgement phase but the acknowledgement phase was still around people who still thought this thing, this awareness thing, and through no fault of their own, most people don't want to see a change in the status quo. People like patterns, people like habits, people like routines. They may say they don't, but they do. That's why you can probably drive from here. Yeah, I can drive from here to the gym and not even think about it and go the same route every time. Like this is what we tend to crave naturally because it makes us feel safe. Just a little biology in there as well. And so sometimes I need to get away from this thought process, and some things are easier than others, right? Like if there's certain things that I was brought up and my culture has a way of saying this is right and this is wrong, and you're either shameful for even thinking different, or you should have guilt, or they'll insult you, or they'll correct you all the time. That's the sign language: shame, insult, guilt, need to be right. So they will do all those things, and interestingly enough, what I found, which I was able to accept, is I'll do it to myself. So when we talk about what other people are doing, I'm like, I don't really gotta. I take it for granted. Like I don't even gotta worry about other people. It does happen, but I do it to myself anyways because this is the way that I was experienced it. I was taught to believe, as opposed to doing it for myself, embodying it with myself. But once you get to that point of, for me, that acceptance piece, like, okay, I accept it. Like this is, and it's hard for me to have a conversation with other people about it because they don't even have the capacity to understand. Like the capacity is not there. So I can't be mad at them for whatever it is that they have going on. So, but it's about me. But do I have the capacity to move forward with it? Oftentimes now, like, yeah, I got the capacity for it. And then you get to this this alignment, this adjustment, and this alignment to where it's actually the real you. And then when you get to it being the real you, after that, it's just more so about setting boundaries if boundaries need to be set with people, places, things, or whatever it is. There's just this certain boundary that I have that I'm just like, okay, I accept your. I spoke about this before we got on. I accept your truth or your belief. That's fine. It's not mine, but I'm happy that you have it. Like I'm excited that you have it. Now I can really get back to the point of having these conversations. How I got back to having the conversations with people is like, man, I'm excited you can have it. What makes you have that? Like, how is it so secure with you? Like, what's going on? So what happens then? So I'm in this place of wonder and curiosity with a person because actually excited that you have what you have. I have what we have, and we can agree to disagree. Sometimes people don't necessarily want to agree to disagree with me. Sometimes people want me to believe this thing. And that's cool too. Once again, once I understand the capacity of the situation, now we're having, then it goes to these different levels of conversation. But what I had to find was having joy in this conversation because I don't want to have the same conversation and there's no joy in it. Right. What I want to get out of this thing is joy. Something that brings me joy is finding out different perspectives, like understanding where this person is at. Chris Voss would call it tactical empathy, crossing the street. So I'm gonna cross the street because I already know what I know. I have the information I have the experience I have. What's going on over here? Now, oftentimes what I found is that because they give me this different perspective of how they see this thing, it's just one of those things, like, I'm just grateful for, because like, man, I can't believe I have, I've been given the ability to understand and to be able to connect on a deeper level. So this also goes back to like having these other different friendships. And you want at a point you mentioned during the friendship, you mentioned like we are able to have these deeper and critical conversations. Like deeper and critical conversations is what makes this thing so like our bond what it is. Like whatever it is happening, you have these deeper and more and critical conversations, the tough, crucial conversations that you can have with somebody that actually deepens the bond. A lot of people shy away from those things because they're like, man, I might lose my friend. I might lose my wife. I might lose my child because I'm going to explain something to them. And what actually ends up happening is that the relationship may change, or 9 times out of 10, it will change. But if you can get to the point of, man, I got this different person in front of me now. Like, man, I can look at Joel and like and say, man, you changed. I see your growth and I'm excited about that. I'm going to grieve this other person, this other Joel 4.5 or whatever it is. And I'm going to fully embrace Joel 4.6, whatever that looks like. And if you can do that, if each of us can have that happening, I don't know if it happens for other people, but it happens for me. I'm just like, okay, this is dope. I do it with Elijah just so it's really I can give a concrete example. I do it with Elijah all the time, and I attempt to teach him how to do it with me. I'm sure he won't get upset about this conversation we had, but I'm so proud of the brother. Last night we finished I did a great decisions course again. We reran that course with 5 other people, 6 including myself. On the last day, we're able to bring people in, right? To go over our principles, which haven't changed. They changed a little bit. The essence of it changed, and to help us. So I brought Elijah in before. One of the things that I asked him to do was to help me out to be more joyful, right? He's been doing an awesome job like that. Like imagine you me asking my 15-year-old son at the time, like, hey, help me to be more joyful. Like whatever that is. Hey, dad, are you having fun? To now, this new one was about being more playful. Like, see what this experience was like. And so Jordan, and he stayed the entire time. He's listening, which I appreciate his patience at that time because I know he wanted to do something else. And the conversation I had with him in front of the group was, I said, listen, the other day, your report card came here and I wasn't too excited about it. I got it and I wasn't happy. So the next day I was taking you somewhere and we were in the car and I was asking you about, what it is that I can do in order to support the class that I didn't like the grade that you got in. At the time, it probably felt like I was being real rigid because I felt it. Like I was being super rigid and you probably felt like I was a police officer interrogating you about these things. And I said, I don't like the way that feels. I don't want to be a part of that. And I know if I don't like it, there's probably going to be disconnect and you aren't liking it because I can tell from the way that you were responding to the answers. I was saying, I said, even in that moment, right, while we're having that conversation, I would like for you to ask me, what is joyful about this conversation? And I take the role of being a father playfully and joyfully, right? However, what I saw was this is how we would communicate with how adults would communicate with kids. So a lot of that it carries over. Like this is what I've been taught. I said, but even in that moment, I said, regardless of what you think is gonna happen, and I understand because my face might look crazy when you ask me, but ask me this. Because what it's gonna do is it's gonna remind me that, hey, joy needs to be a part of all conversation, even difficult conversations. Now, this doesn't mean that we're going to be laughing about something that I think you could do better in or I can support you with. However, it will remind me to, hey, dad, it'll connect better. It'll help you to connect better with me because as a young man, these are things that you're going to have to go out into the world and figure out on your own. And I don't want to take your journey away from you. I know what I know from and what I believe can help you to do better. I don't want to take your journey away from you. So just remind me in that. So hopefully that when we have this conversation again, because it's gonna happen, right? Like it's going to be a time when we need to have this crucial conversation is like to say, "Hey dad, are you being joyful? Are you being playful in this moment? Maybe we need to table this for another time." I kind of think of my principles as a flow, as a release. It's really a breath. It's an inhale and an exhale. So oftentimes when I'm not being joyful, I'm not being playful, I'm not following my principles, I'll take the breath in. I'm really good at that. Like I'm really good at getting myself into stuff. But I may hold on to it longer than it needs to be held on to. This part included, because you and our relationships is going to supersede whatever happens in school. I would hope. I imagine I would love for these things for it to go a certain kind of way, but our relationship to me is more important than that. Our connection together is more important than that as father and son, as people on this earth. So it's going to supersede these results that I got from this. So how can we help to do that? Come on, man. When he said, "Yeah, dad, I can help you with that." And then he said, "Yes, dad, I can help you with that," after I explained that. And I just felt so blessed and grateful for at the time that I can also be vulnerable with him, even to during these times, and for us to figure out a way of how we can help to support each other within our relationship. Like these are the kinds of things that I've found that I can go back after going back to the conversation of these different levels of conversation I can have. And this is with me with father to son. I would submit that most of us could actually increase our relationship if we want. We can connect more, we can go deeper once we start to say, okay, how if we can have these deep crucial conversations by going and asking the different questions and being vulnerable, recognizing that I was partial to the grade, but having empathy, and then we can jump into one of the same view that I'm talking about and it'll raise the level of the connection. So I'm finding that since I've become or I've made myself the common denominator in this thing, I'm the one experiencing the world. Like these are just simple ways that I can increase my time between the sky or the clouds and the dirt. Like this is how I want to do this thing. This is how I want to be in between. This is how I want to enjoy and experience the life, regardless of what someone else believes. You know what I mean? Jelly bean? All right, guys, listen. The brother was in the Florida heat. I was thinking about it. I'm like, the brother's outside for the past almost an hour. So definitely appreciate the brother for taking the time out to sharing his perspectives, his thoughts, some deep stuff in here. So if you all get a chance to go back and look, if you haven't, this will be up on Community Beacon TV. Go check us out. This thing does some editing. We put some thumbnails up there. So it's some awesome videos up there. If you haven't had a chance, go check it out. I appreciate you all for staying here, listening. If you have, if you haven't, please comment, post, subscribe to Community Beacon TV. So just in case you don't get it otherwise, that's where you'll find it. I think it's also on my YouTube channel, if I'm not mistaken, since I like to put it up there live on my YouTube and my Facebook. Other than that, man, we appreciate y'all. Let me get this brother out of this heat, man. Thank you, brother. Yeah, love you too, man. Y'all be safe. All right. Peace, everybody.